Welcome to the Indianapolis Aeros franchise. The Aeros are in season number 4, and for the first time in this series, we are competing here in the AL Central and actually being competitive in the AL as a whole. We are 47-38, a half game out of the wild card spot and less than a game outside of the AL Central race. We have had a big change in momentum though the last month or so. Ojo Taikon, who has been a developmental center fielder, he's flashed a lot in this series. He is injured for the next 1 to 2 months, and this is the third time he has been injured in this series. Keith Rice, who was the DH second half of the season last year, has been the DH all year, also hurt, but he is done for the season. So that means we had to make a couple of roster moves, and that starts with moving up some of our young pitchers, including Josh Brody, who came into this series as the #1 pitching prospect in our organization. He is at 76 overall. I think he's developed now for 3 years, and I think that's good enough to get him a spot here at the MLB level, and just to see how he will do. He is 5'6". He has not necessarily dominated through the minors, but he's been quality and he's been good. So we'll see what he can do in his first start before getting into the MLB draft in this episode. Before that, we'll see if we can get a couple of wins before the All-Star break. Here he faces the New York Mets, who are in first place there in the NL East. He hits one to left field. That one is Roger Maccabee, and he starts it out with the leadoff single. Stephen Kwan, now playing with the New York Mets, gets a high fastball. He bombs this one to center field, but it's just a high fly ball. Pat Washington playing in center after the injury to Ojo Taikon. He is the first out of the game. Pete Alonso to the plate, hit and run situation on with a 3-2 count here with 1 out. That one's hit hard to Paulo Reyes at first base. Bringing up Brett Beatty here with 2 outs, and he watches one in the dirt, and that will be ball 4. Francisco Lindor at the plate, and he gets clunked. Brody goes up and in with that fastball and gets a little too tight, and now there's bases loaded for Jeff McNeil, who was the batting champ back in 2022, but he grounds out to Paulo Reyes at first, so the crisis averted right there by Josh Brody. Top 2 now, Francisco Alvarez at the plate, hits one hard to the right side. That one does get through the infield, so he does give up back-to-back leadoff singles here in the first 2 innings. Billy McKinney hitting .267 on the year, turns on this one, hitting this one deep to center field. It's going to get all the way to the warning track and bounces off of the wall. A run will come across. Pat Washington with a strong throw to the cutoff man, Ian Happ. But it will be 1-0 here for the New York Mets. And they are on the board here on the road. Sam Haggerty comes to the plate now. He hits one well to left side. That one gets through. Jack Sawinski comes up throwing, but a strong throw home does hold the runner up at third. So now the Mets have runners on the corners. The top of the lineup back at the plate now. Ground ball to first. Paulo over to Ray Gonzalez. The kid over to first. It's a double play. Even with 89 speed, we get the double play, but a run does come across to score, so it is 2-0 Mets. As Stephen Kwan comes back to the plate, and it's a soft liner to Ian Happ, thrown on to first. And we're down 2-0. We do get 2 back as we start the 3rd inning. Now that brings up Ray Gonzalez, who hits one well to the right side. That one's going to be deep to right field, and it will just bounce right before the warning track and over the wall for a ground rule double. So now we have runners on 2nd and 3rd. Ray Gonzalez has been flashing a lot this season. That brings up Alex Verdugo to the plate with 1 out. He hits one deep to center field. That is going to be deep enough to score the runner from 3rd, and a sacrifice fly will give us the lead here in the bottom of the 3rd inning. Paulo Reyes comes to the plate now. He's hitting actually really, really well this year. He hits one right to the right side. That one is smoked through the infield, and it's a 4-2 ball game here for your Aeros. The offense has shown up today early in the first 3 innings. So now on to the top of the 4th inning. Indianapolis with the 4-2 lead. Sam Haggerty back at the plate. Remember, he had a deep fly ball to center field earlier, and that one will get to the wall as well. His 2nd hit of the ball game. He's looking for 3 on this one. Thrown to the cutoff man, and it's going to be a close play at 3rd, but Haggerty has a triple this time for his first triple on the year. The top of the lineup back to the plate now. Maccabee, ground ball to 2nd, and the force out at 1st will get the out, but a 4-3 game here for the Mets. Top 5 now. Brett Beatty at the plate. He hits one well down the right field line with a runner on second base. That one will score 1, and the Mets tie this ball game up at 2 apiece. And it's a 4-4 ball game in the middle of this game, and it looks like Josh Brody is getting hit pretty well in his first start. 106 total pitches. He's pretty much gassed at this point. We decide to pull him here. Had a decent outing. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't good. It was just okay. He got hit pretty hard. A rough start to his career here, but he's going to have better days. Bottom 8 now, Cam Collier now in the hit. He smokes one to left center field. That one will get to the gap. Collier's got decent speed with 60. We'll see if he can round second hard, but it looks like he will hold up at second with a leadoff double here to start the bottom of the 8th inning off of Sean Reed Foley. So Cam Collier on second with 60 speed. He does eventually get over to third as that brings up Alex Verdugo, hits one well to the right side. That one gets to the gap. It gets all the way to the wall. And this is usually triples alley, but Verdugo only has 45 speed. He will hold up at second. And we do take the lead here late in this game as Verdugo comes through for the RBI double, his 17th of the season. That brings up Paulo Reyes, 2 for 3 in this game. He gets one inside and turns on it. Paulo Reyes will go deep and give us 2 more runs of insurance for a 2-run home run. Paulo Reyes, for some reason, we're going to look at his ratings probably next episode as we do a deep dive, but he's actually dipped in ratings a little bit, but he has increased in production, so he has gotten better in certain attributes and gotten worse in power, and I think that's kind of helped him. He's been hitting for higher average this year. As we move on to the 9th inning, and the Arrows get the 7-4 victory here at home versus the mighty Mets in the NL East. Looking at Josh Brody's pitching, he gave up 5 hits off of 10 fastballs put in play, 2 for 6 on changeups. Yeah, I mean, he got hit pretty hard. So now here's what you guys have been waiting for here in this episode, the MLB Draft. I am excited for this year because every year we seem like we get a pretty good first round pick, starting with Ray Gonzalez, who is absolutely hitting great so far this year. The average says 253, but I see a lot more. The OPS is at 752. The slugging percentage is at 408. That's gone up. He has 1 more walk than he does strikeouts, and he's actually like producing, runs. And that's one thing that I really, really love about his development. And remember, he's only 20 years old. He's going to have a lot of career in front of him. Terrell Blake, he's still developing in the minor leagues. He was our number 1 overall pick back in season 2. And then there's Jackie Cochran, who we drafted in the first round last year. He is progressing and getting better in everything. And I think he's going to be ready for the show probably in 2 years. I'm going to give him probably 2 full minor league seasons, and then we'll see where he's at. But he's hit 15 home runs. He's slugging really, really well in his first minor league season at AA. And last year, we really had a pretty good draft class. We drafted Leo Gonzalez and Juan Rosario. Both are very, very comparable and very, very similar. Both left-handed pitchers. Both came in with 79 and 80 potential respectively, and the same overall. And then there's John Field, who was my favorite draft pick. He is absolutely pitching great this year. He is the front runner for minor leaguer of the year, by the way. He was pitching alongside Babe Miller at Penn State, and we drafted him in the 5th round. So here we go. The MLB Draft is about to start. The Orioles have the number 1 pick after just winning the World Series a year ago. That is just insane. The Wranglers have the number 2 pick, so we'll see if they choose somebody that is worthy of that pick. So with the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 MLB Draft, the Orioles select Ken Wallace, high schooler out of, it looks like, Pennsylvania. He looks like a decent outfielder, but we did not scout him at all because we did not think he would go number 1 overall. So with the number 2 pick, the Wranglers will select Boyce Ferreira, the outfielder out of the Dominican Republic. He played 1 year at the University of Miami. We scouted him and we touted him as the best hitter in the entire draft. He decided to go back to the Dominican Republic after a tragic accident to his parents and played 1 year at a junior college there. So Boyce Ferreira, the best hitter, is off the board. And number 3 goes Dave McDonald to San Francisco. He was one of the best college pitchers in the country. He pitched at the University of Michigan. We decided not to scout him, but he was one of the guys I was very, very interested in taking in probably our second round pick. So looking at the next picks here, Christian Lopez goes next, Jose Sanchez, all these guys we haven't scouted at all. Stuart Green, I mean, look at all these rankings, 24 draft rank, 67 goes right before us. And here we are at pick number 9. Last time we picked number 9 in the draft, it was season 1 where we picked Ray Gonzalez, and that turned out to be an excellent pick. And now the number 1 overall prospect in the draft is still on the board here, but he is a relief pitcher or a closer in Enrique Villalobos, the closer out of Miami. He is very, very solid, a very good prospect. But our scouts went out and found a excellent left-handed pitcher that is a 4-year junior, only 21 years old, in Roy Page. I am definitely on board with drafting him. I think he is one of the better prospects in the draft. And if I've learned anything about drafting in the first 3 seasons, is that you got to trust the scouts a lot, because if you have good scouts and they've been right more than wrong, you definitely have to scout them. They have him ranked number 2. And then there's Kenny Marrero, who is a right-hander, 6'5", 18-year-old. Now, every single number 1 pick that we've had in this series has been an 18-year-old. So we would be going against the grain if we go with Roy Page or Villalobos. So with the number 9 pick in the 2026 MLB draft, we will select Roy Page, left-hander out of Washington State. Now, we discovered him early on in the season, and as we started to scout him some more, he went and pretty much like flew up the draft board. And our scouts are really, really accurate. I found that out in this series quite a bit. And I think Roy Page has a chance to be the real deal. This will be another first round pick where we draft another pitcher. We've drafted Terrell Blake, and I think that Roy Page is going to be an excellent prospect here in this series. He's going to need about 2, maybe 3 years of development, but if he comes in with the high overall, that could be cut down to 1 to maybe 2 years, 1.5 years, who knows. Number 11 on the board are the White Sox, and they choose Justin Monroe, who I was very, very close to selecting with this pick also. Monroe, to me, was the best all-around pitcher in the draft. He had a high potential. He was guaranteed pretty much an A, 89 through 95, and he's pitching for Ohio State this year, but he goes to the White Sox. The White Sox always draft well in this series as well, as they drafted Orlando Quintana, remember, back in season 1, who we were going to select instead of Ray Gonzalez. So our second pick in this draft is going to be the compensatory balance round A. But there is a pattern going on here. Enrique Villalobos is dropping here in this draft, and he has dropped all the way to pick 34. If he does not go off the board, I would be shocked, and he does not. So now at pick number 35, both of our top 5 prospects that we still had on the board remain, including Enrique Villalobos and Marrero still behind him. So wow, our top 5, 3 of our top 5 prospects are available here with our first 2 picks. That is just amazing. Enrique Villalobos is an excellent relief pitcher, and I would be foolish to pass on him and just pass on this talent. So with the number 35 pick in the 2026 MLB draft, the Indianapolis Aeros steal Enrique Villalobos out of the University of Miami. 21 years old. He is just dominant. He has shut down every single lineup that he has faced, and he has been by far the best college closer in the country. Now, his bonus demand was at $8 million. It goes down to 2.5 since he fell out of the first round. That is just crazy. So far, we actually are able to afford our first 2 picks. Remember, the signing bonus of our first pick was about $3 million, $2 million, and then Villalobos was at $8 million, but he dropped down to 2. So I was actually very, very surprised at that. But what I'm more surprised at is that Kenny Marrero is still on the board with our second round pick at pick number 43. You can't ask for a better outcome here. Kenny Marrero, who was our 5th rated prospect in this draft. He started unranked, and now he is on the board. We have a chance to pick 3 of our top 5 guys. But we do need to do our due diligence here. Pedro Gomez is on the board, and I really, really like him. He is going to be a guaranteed at least B potential. He has an overall that is pretty decent to start out as a prospect, and he's only 20 years old. He's very, very fast. He's going to be a good runner. He has good contact versus right. He's going to be an okay fielder, but I would be foolish to pass on Marrero, because if we get to choose 3 of our top 5 in this draft, you got to do it. So with the 45th pick in the 2026 MLB draft, the Arrows select Kenny Marrero, pitcher out of the University of Houston. I love this kid. Actually, not the University of Houston. He is out of high school. Now, one thing I like about him is that he's got tremendous stuff. I think he's going to develop into somebody that's going to be very special. I think I actually have a really good feeling about Kenny Marrero, mostly because, you know, when we've drafted in this draft, we've done a good job of drafting good right-handed pitchers, and I think adding to that bunch and adding Marrero is going to be a big steal here for the Arrows in this series. With our next pick, I was actually thinking about drafting Peter Hopkins because I wanted more of a older, sure thing, and Hopkins was a good defensive infielder who I had really high hopes for, and he was a local kid, played for the University of Indiana, so that's definitely sucked. But I guess one thing that you learn in this draft is that your guys don't stay on the board long, so you got to pick them up when they are there. So with our next pick, you know, we have a couple of options we could go with. Now, since we drafted pretty much sure things in our first 3 picks, you know, guys that we had 100% scouted, I'm going to go all out on a whim here and maybe draft a guy that I didn't scout at all. And I'm looking at a couple of guys. Ozzy Valenzuela, I want to get a good hitter at this pick. Steven Cooper is here. He's a third baseman. He's a pretty good fielder. He actually can run quite a bit as well. And then there's Quentin Jamison, but I would kind of err on the side of getting a high potential guy rather than Jamison. Jamison's going to be a high floor guy and less of a high ceiling guy. So with this pick, I decide to go with first baseman Jermaine Ness, 18-year-old prospect who has fell in this draft actually, and we're getting him here in the 3rd round. Now, scouts are saying that maybe Ness could be a bust. Maybe he could be a boom. Who knows? But that's the big unknown. And that's one of the reasons why we're taking a chance on him. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, well, we just took 3 of our top 5 prospects in the draft. I think this is a very low risk pick here. He is a good hitter. He's 18 years old too, so there's no need to rush him at all. He's going to be able to develop in the organization, and he drops all the way down to our pick here. He was draft ranked number 64, and we select him in that 3rd round. So now we are here at pick number 111 in round number 4. I think we've at least hit on 3 of our first 4 picks. Now with our 4th rounder, and one thing I really like to do in these drafts is pick a guy that is coming from college, a guy that's going to start out with a higher overall, and a guy that is kind of like a fringe MLB player that can play in AAA and can also just be a contributor early on in his career. I look at Peter Land along with Billy Schneider. Schneider is a great hitter versus right-handed pitching. He has excellent vision and discipline, but his fielding is what gets me. So with this pick, I want to select a guy that is going to be pretty much close to a sure thing. So I will select Billy Schneider, shortstop, out of, this time, the University of Houston. One thing I like about Schneider is that, like I said, not only is he going to be a defensive shortstop, maybe even the best defensive shortstop in the draft, he can hit very well versus right-handed pitching. I think that's one thing that we've been lacking, a right-handed bat that can hit pretty well versus right-handed pitching. That I can kind of move up between AAA and the major leagues, and I think that's one thing that he's going to be specializing in. I don't know if he's going to be a starter, but he's going to be a guy that I can use for depth, and you can never run out of those type of guys. So now we are here in round number 5. We have 2 more picks left in this draft. We are here at pick number 141. And we have a lot of guys that are not scouted. I mean, a ton of them. And I think at this point, we kind of had to take a flyer on a guy. And one guy that I like here is Vernon Muriel. He is a 21-year-old. He's played in college for 4 years. He's a 4-year junior. And we will go with him in this draft. Now, he played with Peter Hopkins, who I was thinking about picking with our third pick, or our fourth pick, I should say. And Muriel is a guy that can hit pretty well. He has decent speed, but one thing I do like about him is that he's going to have time to develop as an outfielder in our organization. One thing that we need are more young outfielders, and I think that that's a thing that, you know, he definitely can help out with, at least, you know, developing the rest of our outfielders also, at least pushing them to be better players, because it comes a time when you can't renew contracts any longer. So with our final pick, I'm going to go with a catcher. We don't have many catching prospects, and this is definitely a need here in our organization. So we go with Alfonso Marin, who is a 18-year-old catcher who can play pretty much anywhere on the field, but he's stuck at catcher, and that's probably where we will kind of stick with him. He can run a little bit. He could also play some outfield, but I'm going to stick him at catcher and develop him as a catcher. So that's going to do it here in this draft. I cannot believe we selected 3 of our top 5 prospects with our first 3 picks. That is just incredible. At least we had 3 in the first 45. I don't know how that broke that way. I'm not sure which player gave us the competitive balance round A pick. I'm guessing it's probably Ramel Tapia, if I had to guess. I'm guessing he signed with another team. I'll have to double check that. We picked up Jermaine Ness, but I really like the Billy Schneider pick, a great defensive shortstop, and that's one thing that you cannot have enough of, and he can probably play any infield spot also. But I think we made out pretty well in this draft. So to start the month of July, just following up with the draft, we win 3 straight. And then we drop 2 straight. So we go into the All-Star break, losing 2 to the Chicago White Sox. And that's where we'll pick up next episode at the All-Star break. But we are 50-40. Let me know what you guys thought of that draft. I can't believe that we picked, you know, those 3 pitchers, or at least 2 of the 3 pitchers there early in that draft. And, you know, I think that one thing that I can do now is that I have flexibility to possibly trade a pitching prospect for a guy that can help out at the MLB level sooner rather than later. I think that those 3 guys definitely give us, you know, that flexibility to do that. So let me know what you guys think. Should we go after a big, you know, trade target at the deadline? We threw on a couple of names last episode. I'm all ears, but I'm very, very happy with this draft. I think it was another successful draft, and we'll see what happens here the rest of the season. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hit subscribe, hit that like button. Stay tuned. Let's get it. Let's go.
It's too easy. I've been there, done it, seen it. Boy, all that like Keenan. Still got crack, they fiendin'. Flow still hot like Phoenix. Shine so bright, I'm gleaming. This off top, I'm tweaking. Fresh out the rat like Neiman. And I'm still trying to fight my demons. Cause we all gotta act like Tina. That's why I gotta ride with the Nina. Outside, it's a war.